and you end up with somewhere around a $5,000 bill if done by a professional. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Ed Gasket. If you are new to this channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you find this video tremendous and would consider subscribing. Now, if you are a returning viewer, that's arguably even cooler, and thank you so much for giving us a second chance. As you know, I just revealed on this channel a new build in the garage, which is this beautiful low mileage 6-speed 911. Now I'm going to leave a link in the description below to the video where I talk about what I paid for this vehicle and of course where I found it. But the short end of it is that this is an auction vehicle, and vehicles go to auction when there's something wrong with them. If there weren't something wrong with this car, it would be in a dealer's lot, bringing a lot more money than I paid. So let me reveal to you a few of the secrets that I've discovered since owning this 911 that explain why it was at auction. Now, as I revealed in the previous video, this is the bumper, and you can see it was in some sort of a front-end collision. There's damage here, and a significant crack in the bumper here. Now, as common as these cars were, there just aren't that many bumpers available that are in pristine condition. So if you're going to buy a new one, that's upwards of $1,000+. And of course, that's before it's painted and fit to the vehicle. So then after all the body work, you're looking at a few $1,000s just to fix the front bumper. Now, looking a little bit further, you can see there's actually a crease in the hood right here. And of course, the hood is not a cheap piece on this vehicle. So finding one used perhaps for under $1,000 is an opportunity. But of course, the insurance company is going to find it new and then have it painted, again, costing a few $1,000s in repairs. Now, the front end damage isn't severe, and I think it's something I can tackle myself. That's why I bought this car. And of course, I'll share with you the process from start to finish. I actually picked up the black paint that matches the black paint on this 911 today from the automotive supply. And that dent in the hood, I think that might respond to some paintless dent removal. Again, something I plan on tackling myself. So we just saved ourselves a few $1,000s. Of course, we're gonna have to do the work. Now, there are a few other supplies, of course, that I'm waiting for so that we can do that project, and they're actually due today in the mail. So while we wait for their arrival, let me share with you a few other unpleasant surprises about our 911. Now, if I start this car, which is an exciting achievement within itself, of course, one of the issues is that you'll see that airbag light. The rest of these lights are going to go off within the next few moments, but that airbag light, that isn't going anywhere. Now, of course, there are a number of reasons you could have an airbag light on the dash, and one of them is related to that front-end collision that this car was recently in. But there's another interesting thing about this car that I forgot to tell you. The horn doesn't work. Now, you know what's behind this steering wheel is not just the horn, but also an airbag. And if there's an electrical problem that's not allowing the horn to work, well, maybe it's also not allowing the airbag to work, and that's the source of our light on the dash. So let's spend the next few minutes taking this thing apart, seeing if we can identify any problems in the wiring, and then we can solve that airbag issue. And of course, get our horn back. Now, these vehicles are notorious for having wiring issues behind the steering wheel. That's why I took off this airbag, because I wanted to make sure that all the wiring was 100% before I continued onward. Now, this wiring actually looks fine, so let's put this back together and head over to the fuse box to see if we can figure out what's going on. So actually, if I come down here and pull off this fuse panel, and then if I take a look at the fuse in this B3 position, you'll see that that fuse is actually blown. So let's replace it and see if it fixes our problem. So there's actually an extra 25 amp fuse in the fuse panel down here. So I'll just pull this one out from the extra slot and place it in position B3. That should hopefully fix our problem. Okay, so obviously the horn isn't beeping, but I can hear some clicking. I don't know if that's a relay or a solenoid or something. So the solenoid's clicking, but the horn isn't making any noise. So what do you say we go under the hood? I think we're gonna have to take the bumper off, and we'll take a look at the actual horn itself and figure out if there's power going to it and why it's not making any noise. So we removed the front bumper off this vehicle, and now we can see exactly where those two horns are that are controlled by the pressure switch in the steering wheel. Also, you're probably wondering why I'm focusing so much of my time on this minuscule part compared to the overall vehicle. And that's of course because without a horn, you can't pass your Pennsylvania safety inspection, and then we can't drive our car. So the only thing technically between us and driving this 911 is a new horn. So now we're behind the front bumper. You can see this is one of the horns powered by the steering wheel. This is the wire that's bringing power to the horn. So all we have to do is remove this wire and see if there's any power going through it. If there is power and there's no noise, that means this thing is broken and we need a new horn. So this is just a simple device that shows you if power is running through a wire. There's a light inside the handle, and if this thing gets energized, it will light up. I have my assistant leaning on the horn right now. Of course there's no noise because it's not plugged in. So you can see the handles lighting up, and what that means is that there's power running through this wire. So there's no reason for that horn not to be working, other than the fact that the horn itself is the problem. Fortunately for us, I just checked the mailbox and a bunch of new parts did arrive. So these are two brand new horns. We're going to replace the old ones, and that should fix all of our issues with the horn. So I plugged in those two horns, and now it's time to test them out. Oh, the fuse. Got to put the fuse in. Here's that 25 amp fuse again. Okay. Works. So far, really not many big problems with this Porsche 911. Now, buying an auction vehicle like this at such a discount really makes you think that there's got to be something significantly wrong with this car that we just haven't found yet. So let's keep looking and just replacing things as we find things that are broken. So if you recall, I spent about $16,000 on this 911, which was a really good deal. It's arguably $5,000 or $10,000 less than market value. But that's not going to remain a good deal if I have to spend $5,000 fixing this thing. So in an attempt to save a few $1,000s, I'm going to see if I can get the dents out of that hood with a cheap paintless dent removal tool that you can buy on Amazon. I'll be sure to link this product in the description down below so you can buy it for yourself and attempt to save your wallet a few bucks. Well, if you look closely, you'll see I actually performed paint removal, dent removal. Alright, so we're all done screwing around with the paintless dent removal, and I'm actually really happy with the outcome. Take a look. Now, of course, the clear coat is really scratched and needs a nice wet sanding and compounding and, of course, some polishing. But, I mean, a few minutes ago, there was a crease right across this hood, and if you take a step back, it's really hard to appreciate any defects at all. Of course, up close with those lights, we can see that there are still some highs and lows right there, right here. And I can continue to work those out, but I mean overall, if we step back and take a look at this hood, this looks really nice. And of course there's some paint damage right here from earlier that I've tried to avoid showing you, and that hopefully buffs out nicely with our wet sanding and compounding. So guys, it's looking like the reason this car was so cheap at auction still is the fact that there's a lot of body work to be done on this vehicle. Combine the damage to the front bumper with the headlight and of course the hood, and you end up with somewhere around a $5,000 bill if done by a professional. So the last thing we have to do to get this 911 up and running and roadworthy is of course clean this bumper, sand down all the damage, hit it with a little bit of filler, and then prime, paint, and clear coat. So if you want to follow along as we get this 911 back on the road, be sure to subscribe to Ed Gasket, check out some other builds taking place in the garage, and hit up Ed Gasket Garage on Instagram for updates between videos. Otherwise, guys, if you need us between now and that next video, we'll be in the garage.